Good afternoon. You're watching News Central now on News Central TV. My name is Mazino. The top stories this hour. Government promises to rebuild Majia town following Jigawa tanker blast as Nigeria Safety Investigations Bureau begin probe. Defense headquarters neutralizes 96 terrorists, recovers 712 million naira crude. Kenya President Ruto nominates Interior Minister Kithure Kindiki as Gachagua's replacement. Details shortly. News Central now at this hour begins in north-central Nigeria, where following the tragic petrol tanker explosion in Majia, Jigawa State, which claimed over 150 lives, the Nigerian Safety Investigations Bureau has dispatched a team of experts to investigate the incident. In a statement, NSIB's Director of Public Affairs, Mrs. Bimbo Oladeji, said the team will assess the causes of the crash and explosion with the goal of preventing future occurrences. The explosion occurred after a tanker en route from Kano to Yobe crashed and spilled its fuel, which ignited when residents attempted to scoop it. NSIB urged the public to avoid gathering at accident scenes, citing the dangers of such actions. Further updates will follow as investigations proceed. Meanwhile, the federal government has pledged support to Jigawa State in rebuilding Majia town following a devastating fuel tanker explosion that claimed 153 lives. Secretary to the government of the Federation, George Akume, made this promise on Thursday during a condolence visit. Akume conveyed President Bola Tinubu's deep sorrow over the incident, noting that the president has ordered a thorough investigation and directed federal agencies to assist in rebuilding and supporting affected families. Kwara State Governor Abdurrahman Abdurrazak, part of the delegation, urged citizens to avoid scooping fuel during accidents. Meanwhile, Federal Road Safety Corps Marshal Shehu Muhammad confirmed an ongoing investigation and promised enhanced measures to prevent future road accidents. Now, as part of activities to mark this year's International Day for Disaster Risk Reduction, stakeholders and experts gathered at the University of Maiduguri to emphasize the critical need for increased awareness and education on disaster response in Nigeria. News Central's Umar Muhammad completes the report.
Disasters like flood and sometimes conflict strike like the proverbial thief in the night. Communities most often are not aware of what to do in response. Experts and stakeholders here stress the need for comprehensive education programs to prepare communities.
I would like to call on the government to include children in activities like public awareness activities in order to protect themselves from disaster. Yes, and also disaster risk management.
Most importantly, we must prepare for disasters. Emergencies, disasters are surely coming, especially in this age and era of climate change. So the occurrence, their frequencies are becoming more and more worrisome. And so what we need to do is, like we have always been saying, we need to prepare for them.
From our own side, Save the Children, we have a web-based early warning system. So what the web-based early warning system does is that it gives us heads up should there be the likelihood of a massive disaster, even a disaster of small scale. So we feed the early warning system with information like it serves one as a database of incidents.
The forum brought together officials, non-governmental organizations, and academics who shared insights on enhancing local response mechanisms.
As part of our early warning projection collaboration, we received weather equipment worth 14 million naira donated to our Center for Disaster Risk Management and Development Studies by Save the Children International.
If we are more disaster resilient, it's like we're wearing bulletproof, against disaster. So, and it starts with knowledge. When you are aware of the risk that you are facing, then you will be able to make adequate actions or strategies to protect yourself.
The gathering called for government action and community engagement to implement sustainable disaster preparedness initiatives. In Maiduguri for News Central, Umar Kirawa.
To security matters now, the Defense Headquarters has reported the elimination of 96 terrorists and the arrest of 227 suspects during operations in northern Nigeria. Among those arrested is Usman Maisaje, a terrorist commander linked to high-profile leader Kachala Bukka. Major General Buba Edward, Director of Defense Media Operations, stated on Friday that Maisaje has been providing valuable intelligence to assist further military efforts. Troops also rescued 157 kidnapped hostages. In the South-South, 45 suspected oil thieves were arrested and crude oil worth over 712 million naira was recovered. Troops also seized a range of weapons, ammunition, and vehicles and dismantled illegal refinery sites across the region. Now, let's also tell you that National Security Advisor Malam Nuhu Ribadu has revealed that many illicit weapons circulating in Nigeria originally belonged to the federal government. Speaking during an arms destruction exercise by the National Center for the Control of Small Arms and Light Weapons at Muhammadu Buhari Cantonment, Abuja, Ribadu blamed corrupt security personnel for allowing these weapons to fall into the hands of terrorists, bandits, and other non-state actors. He condemned the actions of those within the security agencies who facilitate the distribution of arms and assured that the government is committed to enhancing the country's security and preventing further illegal weapon proliferation. Now, let's tell you that a CNG-powered vehicle explosion at a fueling station in Adawawa, Benin, left 3 people severely injured. According to multiple videos posted online, the blast, which occurred on Wednesday, was linked to an improperly fabricated cylinder by a welder. Among the injured are a motorist with eye injuries, a woman with severe stomach injuries, and another person who had a foot amputated. All victims are receiving treatment at the University of Benin Teaching Hospital. Authorities confirmed the welder turned himself in to the police. The presidential CNG initiative expressed sympathy, emphasizing the need for strict safety compliance and announcing investigations by the police and regulatory bodies. The incident highlights the importance of safe CNG handling and the upcoming Nigeria gas vehicle monitoring system. It's time for a break now, and when we return, former President Goodluck Jonathan blames judiciary for various internal crises rocking political parties in the country. We'll bring you the details after this break. Join us again. Welcome back. Now, the Federation Accounts Allocation Committee, FAAC, has distributed 1.298 trillion naira to the federal, state, and local governments as revenue for September 2024. This was announced following the FAC meeting held in Abuja on Thursday. The breakdown of the distributable revenue includes 124.7 billion naira in statutory revenue, 554.5 billion naira from value-added tax, 18.4 billion naira from the electronic money transfer levy, 462.2 billion naira from exchange difference revenue, and an additional 150 billion naira in augmentation. A communique from the FAC meeting revealed that the total revenue for September 2024 was 2.258 trillion naira. Of this, 80.9 billion naira was deducted for the cost of collection, while 878.9 billion naira went to transfers, interventions, and refunds. In September, gross statutory revenue stood at 1.043 trillion naira, a decline from 177.4 billion naira from August's 1.221 trillion naira. However, VAT revenue increased to 583.7 billion naira, a rise of 10.3 billion naira from August's figure of 573.3 billion naira. And Nigeria's former president, Goodluck Jonathan, has accused the nation's Supreme Court of instigating crisis in the nation's political parties following various court judgments expected to resolve their internal party differences. Speaking at the 67th birthday celebration of senior advocate of Nigeria, Mike Ozekome, Jonathan expressed concerns about the ruling, saying that this contradicts the natural order of governance.
And we're so grateful to have. When I look at how nation works, I have never seen a system where a sub-unit can discipline the top. For PDP exactly, of course Baba knows, in the constitution of PDP, if you're a national officer, even your state cannot discipline you. Not to talk about a ward officers that are not even members of NEC, the National Executive Council. And we are saying that a ward chairman of a party can suspend and expel a national chairman of a political party. I'm pleading with the Supreme Court to review that their judgment. Because that judgment has turned the cone upside down. And the political process, the democracy is wobbling.
We now head to Rivers State, where Governor Siminalayi Fubara emphasized that Nigeria needs strong institutions, not powerful individuals, to foster democracy and good governance. Speaking at the rededication service for 2024-25 new legal year at St. Paul's Cathedral, Port Harcourt, Governor Fubara urged judges to remain courageous in upholding truth despite threats and frivolous petitions. He stressed that the country's progress depends on institutional strength and not individual control. The governor also criticized judges who act unprofessionally, reminding them of their vital role in society and the importance of maintaining judicial integrity.
Let me say it here so you understand. Judges, you are the God that we are seeing. Your position is to stand and defend us. Your position is to look at whoever and tell the person the truth. Because if you don't do it here, you have a big question to answer. The preacher said it. Every evil done in the course of administrative justice, you will pay for it dearly. Look at what today, the up and downs in this state. When everybody knows that whatever we're getting from that end, I don't want to call their name, are but judgments. Everybody knows. But I'm not bothered about it. Like the word said here, it will come to us.
The Kogi State government has announced that there will be restricted vehicular movement on Saturday, October 19, between 7 a.m. and 4 p.m. This decision was made to ensure a hitch-free council poll in the state and to guarantee the security of voters and citizens across the 21 local government areas. The State Commissioner for Information and Communication, Kingsley Fanwo, in a statement called on the residents to come out and participate in the local government elections while assuring prospective voters of adequate security. Fanwo also expressed confidence in the Kogi State Independent Electoral Commission to organize a free and fair election. Now we head to Plateau State, where over 300 certificates of return have been presented to councillors who were victorious at the just concluded October 9 local government election in Plateau State. The returning officer, who doubles as the chairman, Plateau State Independent Electoral Commission, Planji Shikak, said the candidates fulfilled all the necessary requirements before, during and after the election. News Central's Chizaba Nyonwe completes the report.
The October 9 local council election in Plateau State was met with many ups and downs. A few disappointments were experienced by the electoral body, PLASIEC, especially where the beavers wasn't available, and the alternative, the voter verification system, also failed in many polling units. One thing that was remarkable was the peaceful conduct of the polls, which was commended by many people, both within and outside the state. It was on this premise that the electoral process came to a conclusive end with the presentation of certificates of return to over 300 councillors across the 17 local government areas of the state.
As far as my rating is concerned, it was conducted free and fair, and winners have emerged. So we have leaders at the grassroots at the moment, and I want to assure you with what the governor is doing, coming to add the value of those that have been elected as local government chairmen and deputies. You will see progress, you will see development, we will see more peace and unity in Plateau State.
To me, I feel it's one of the best elections so far. An election that a result was announced properly, the due process was followed.
I go to my village to participate in election. With the hardship, I couldn't go, and coupled with, even if you vote, they will declare what they want.
They feel the same exercise, which will hold next in 2027, will be better coordinated.
We are not afraid of the new crave to have a separate electoral body to come and conduct local government elections. But if that bill passes through and is accented into law, as citizens of Nigeria and people that are interested in democratic principles will also accept it as a state and will move forward.
Is to work on the beavers, which we had a lot of challenges on the failure of beavers here and then, and they can make some improvement to that.
A situation whereby what you do is different from what they announce, you don't get motivated to come out and vote. But by the grace of God, with prayers, we know Nigeria will change. So we'll still come out and vote.
The chairman of PLASIEC, Plank Jichishak, has announced a rerun of the election in 9 wards of 6 local government areas where there were reports of electoral irregularities. However, a date is yet to be announced for the polls. In Jos for News Central, Chizoba Anyonwe.
Now let's turn our attention to election matters. Nigeria's electoral body, the Independent National Electoral Commission, has fixed Saturday, the 8th of November 2025 for the off-cycle Anambra State governorship polls. The electoral body, while meeting with heads of political parties as part of its 4th regular consultative meeting, also informed those present of the preparation for the upcoming Ondo State governorship election slated for November 16th this year. Now, to further discuss this, I'm being joined by Umar Muhammad, Program Manager, Kimpact Development Initiative. Umar, you're welcome. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you very much for having me.
So, based on your experience from covering elections, we would like to find out exactly what key challenges impact electoral processes.
Yeah, thank you very much for that question. Kimpact Development Initiative has been observing election for some time now. And just recently, we returned back from the Edo off-cycle gubernatorial election. And I can tell you for a fact that we've seen a lot of dynamics, changes in the process of elections. If you could recall, sometimes back, Kimpact, during the pre-election environment, Kimpact Development Initiative predicted some factors that we felt would affect the outcome of the Edo governorship election. And these factors, some which are weather condition, Kimpact Development Initiative predicted that it may likely rain. The chances of it raining on that day of the election was very high. And we advised INEC to carry out plans that can mitigate against the chances of rain affecting, that election. As God will have it, on that election day, we noticed that rain fell and it affected a whole lot of local governments in Edo State from coming out early to conduct election, and for others in the middle of accreditation and voting, that rain affected, the election. In some places like Ikobaoka, Ego, local government area, or Edo local government area in Edo South, votings were disrupted as a result of that rain. We also predicted that the economic situation of the country will also affect, the choices of voters, that security agencies should do whatever they can, to ensure that vote trading doesn't take place in that election. We saw vote trading taking place in Edo in that governorship election. We saw vote being sold as high as 10,000 naira per voter. In fact, vote buying and selling was done, across the states, and it cut across political parties also. So we predicted this, and we also noticed that snatching of ballot papers, violence in the elections. We have also seen a trend, where all these are starting to slow down, but politicians instead will rather move to collation centers, to do what they need to do in their own favor.
All right then, Umar. I'd like us to bring it to the specificity of the Ondo elections now. What can INEC do, especially when it comes to transparency and accountability in these elections? What can they do to make sure that there is no case of fraud or vote rigging based on everything that you've experienced?
For what we have seen in Ondo, some of the lessons we have learned, we hope that, which we have put out in our report, and we hope that INEC will be able to take it forward, is that we've seen situations where collation center has been a major challenge, where results are altered, at the collation stage. So it is our hope that INEC will do what they can to put competent hands and people with credibility to man collation of results from ward level to the local government and even at the state collation center. We're also looking at, situation where INEC will be able to invoke its power as given by the Electoral Act, which is Section 65 of the Electoral Act, which allow INEC, to be able to review election results, 1 week after the results have been announced, because we are seeing a trend where, protests by political parties about irregularities raised, and the response that is gotten is just noted, and nothing is done, afterwards. We are looking at possibility where INEC will be able to deploy such power as given to it by the Electoral Act, to review election results, compare the Form EC8A that it has physically with it to that was uploaded, to the IREF, to be able to resolve the issues of discrepancies. Because in Edo State, we noticed that the results that were uploaded on the IREF there were a lot of discrepancies as against what was announced, at the State Collation Center. For instance, I will tell you for a fact that on the IREF, we saw 22 polling units where from EC40G was uploaded. And from EC40G upload means that there was issues with accreditation and voting in that polling unit.
Okay, then.
With the BVAS machine, by Model Voter Accreditation System machine. So,
well, okay then, Mr. Umar.
Election could not hold in 22 of those polling units. But on collation center at the state level, INEC returning officers for the local government stated that there were no cancellations in their local government. So you tend to wonder how is there such a situation where 22 polling units was uploaded on INEC IREF portal, stating that election did not go.
All right, Mr. Umar, that indeed is food for thought for the authorities. We hope that as we move toward the elections for Ondo State, that the atmosphere is conducive enough, especially for the pre-election activities. Thank you very much, Mr. Umar. Now, worried by the high rate of poverty and lack of access to employment among persons with disabilities, the Inclusive Friends Association, a disability rights advocacy group, have raised an alarm over the exclusion of the disability community in Nigeria's National Digital Literacy Framework for 2023. This was during a consultative forum on digital literacy for women and girls with disabilities. News Central's Emmanuel Bagu reports.
Many experts believe that the vision of Nigeria achieving 95% digital literacy for its over 200 million citizens is a tall order. When considering persons with disabilities, it even becomes more difficult considering the disability community's 35 million population who continue to lack access to basic amenities, including digital skills.
Women and girls. In line with the global trend,
the Inclusive Friends, a disability rights advocacy group, says that this has made access to jobs very difficult for persons with disabilities, whom estimates reveal that 90% are living in poverty.
Up to 90% of persons with disabilities in Nigeria live in abject poverty. And you will all agree with me that even that percentage is on the increase right now with the economic hardship.
I think these underserved communities is the only word I saw that distinctly spoke about persons with disabilities. It's the only word in the whole of the entire document I scanned through. I was looking for a place where maybe they wrote it in small letters that I couldn't see because of my vision, but I did not see it. I zoomed and zoomed. This word for me is a darling word. I love it.
According to the persons with disabilities, unemployment continues to pose a major challenge, which has been compounded by their non-inclusion in digital skills.
Because I am a computer literate, very, very literate when it comes to computer. So I work from the comfort of my home. I work for foreign companies from the comfort of my home. I can even decide to maybe go to the field where there is nobody with my laptop, and I work and I get paid in dollars, right? So now, if you educate or maybe you equip the girl child or a woman with disability with this, because the Nigerian road offices are not accessible. Some of them will be like, I need government jobs, I need government jobs. When you get a government job, can you access their buildings?
Women and girls with disability needs to be deeply involved in digital literacy, as this can open doors of opportunity, employment in their entrepreneurial spaces, in their business places, in their wherever they find themselves.
Persons with disabilities in Nigeria say they look forward to being included in Nigeria's National Digital Literacy Framework. In Abuja for News Central, I am Emmanuel Bagu.
Now, UNICEF recognizes that climate change has a disproportionate impact on children, particularly those living in poverty. The organization views climate change as a child's right crisis, directly threatening children's survival, growth, and also development. Speaking exclusively with News Central TV, Kitty Van de Heggen, the Assistant Secretary General and Deputy Executive Director Partnership of UNICEF, said climate change exposes children to extreme weather events, water scarcity, and disease, which can lead to malnutrition, displacement, and even death.
To be a child around the world. If we look at, for example, the world we live in, we have never had as many conflicts in the world as we currently have. And of course, there are the headline-grabbing conflicts like what we see in the Middle East right now or in Ukraine, but we also have long, ongoing, protracted conflicts in Syria, in Yemen. But also think of the forgotten conflicts in Myanmar, who speaks of Myanmar, of Haiti, of the DRC. So conflict is one big problematic area, and UNICEF as an organization, we're always there, no matter if the bombs are falling, to make sure that children are protected. That's one big part of our work. The second part of our work really relates to all the development issues as you know them. It's education, it's health, it's nutrition, it's protection. But currently what we also see is that many of the development gains that we have achieved over decades are being eroded by climate change. And so really working on making people aware what climate change is doing to children and equipping children for a future that looks very different than when I left high school. And then third, perhaps, it's a very difficult period in life for children because of the economic downturn, a part of that due to COVID, a part of that due to debt. And so where do young people really find employment? How do we make sure that they don't just survive?
Now, the quest to make good use of high solid waste generated in Lagos State got another boost on Tuesday as the state expressed readiness to partner with some Sweden organizations on how to turn both solid waste and liquid waste to energy across the metropolis. News Central's Bettina Nweli reports.
Efforts by the Lagos Waste Management Authority, LOMA, a significant portion of waste in Lagos remains uncollected, cluttering sidewalks, open spaces, and waterways. Speaking during a meeting at Alausa, the Commissioner for the Environment and Water Resources, Tokunbo Wahab, says waste to energy is a project that the state government is willing to embark on in order to move the narrative forward in a progressive and productive way.
So our resolve from the beginning of this tenure is whatever we have to do to manage and deploy and see our municipal solid waste and liquid waste as a resource, we must engage to do them in a way that will save just not Lagos, but will reduce the carbon footprint for us as a state. So the waste to energy is something we are ready to go ahead with. We are very ready and willing to move the narrative forward in a very progressive and productive way.
The commissioner stated that the ministry has resolved to embrace any project that will cut the carbon footprint in the state. According to him, Lagos generates between 13,000 to 14,000 tons of waste per day, and the state is open to suggestions about possible and productive ways to turn it into a resource to move the state forward. Representatives of the Swedish organizations willing to collaborate with Lagos State had this to say.
We are here to actually support with capacity development, and that could be sort of a technical capacity development and knowledge. It could also be about the framework for it and the code for biogas. Another example is the sustainability, to make sure that the whole project fulfill all the sustainability criteria.
Lamata came to us and wanted to explore biofuels, so we have supported and financed a study where they are project owner. It's not our project, it's Lagos project.
The growing crisis in waste management not only poses a threat to the environment, but also significantly impacts the health and well-being of Lagosians. In the absence of effective solutions and attention, Lagos faces the risk of becoming overwhelmed by its own waste. In Lagos, for News Central, I'm Bettina Nwili.
Now coming up, last witness appears in trial of alleged killers of soccer star Samson Maya. We'll bring you this and more when we return after this break. We now head to the east of the continent, where Kenyan President William Ruto has nominated Interior Minister Kithure Kindiki as Deputy President following the impeachment of Rigathi Gachagua. The announcement was made by National Assembly Speaker Moses Wetangula during a special parliamentary session on Friday. Now, Kindiki emerged as a top contender after Gachagua's ousting by the Senate on Thursday. Wetangula informed the House of Ruto's decision to fill the vacancy, noting that Parliament now has 60 days to vote on the nomination. Ruto had a 14-day window to submit a nominee after the impeachment, and Kindiki is set to step into the role pending parliamentary approval. In South Africa, the lead investigator in Samson Maya's murder trial, Brigadier Jogani Gindinda, is giving testimony on the Pretoria High Court, refuting claims that have been made by Samson Maya's brother of 2 ducats in the case. He came back after the state asked him to give clarity on his testimony on the matter again. During his testimony, he told the court that there were only 1 ducat into Maya's murder case and that he was not the only one assigned to work on the investigation. He further said the correction docket 365 was opened in revenge because they could not agree on whether Maya's murder was committed by the individuals in the house or by intruders. Jiginda also testified that he's convinced that the footballer was killed by intruders and not the people who were with him in the house where he was shot. Brigadier Bongani Gindinga is the state's last witness. And now Israel has taken responsibility for the killing of Hamas leader Yahya Sinwar. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said on Thursday that the killing of Hamas chief Yahya Sinwar is the beginning of the end of the war in Gaza. Gazans are hopeful that the war would come to an end now, as Sinwar was widely believed to be the elusive mastermind of the unprecedented attack on Israel on October 7, 2023, that triggered a relentless Israeli military campaign in Gaza.
is dead. He was killed in Rafah by the brave soldiers of the Israel Defense Forces. While this is not the end of the war in Gaza, it's the beginning of the end. To the people of Gaza, I have a simple message. This war can end tomorrow. It can end if Hamas lays down its arms and returns our hostages.
Business now. World Trade Organization's Director General Okonjo-Iweala has called for tripling renewable energy production and doubling energy efficiency by 2030 to meet the Paris Agreement targets. Speaking at the Trade and Environment Week in Geneva, she highlighted the pivotal role of trade policies in promoting environmental sustainability and a clean energy transition. Okonjo-Iweala pointed to tariff reforms that favor renewable energy over high-carbon goods and the reduction of fossil fuel subsidies as crucial steps to lower costs, encourage low-carbon technologies, and curb emissions. She also emphasized aligning global standards and certification processes to ensure a stable framework for expanding renewable energy developments. And now for sports. South Africa are through to their second successive T20 Women's World Cup final after a career-high undefeated 74 of only 48 deliveries by Aniek Bush, led by Proteas women to a surprisingly comfortable 8-wicket win over Australia. The defending champions missed out on an 8th final appearance as the Proteas reached their target of 135 with 16 balls to spare. Across the 8 editions of the T20 World Cup, the Aussies have lifted the trophy in 6, having been beaten in the semi-finals by eventual champions England in the inaugural tournament in 2009 and finishing as runners-up to West Indies in 2016. And to discuss this, we are being joined by Ken Boland, freelance cricket writer and commentator in Johannesburg. Ken, you're welcome. Thank you very much for joining us this afternoon.
Good afternoon. Thanks very much.
You're welcome. Now, what are your initial thoughts about the Proteas' performance in the T20 World Cup final against Australia? What key moments stood out for you?
Well, first of all, it's an amazing result for South Africa. Only the second time they've beaten Australia in a T20 World Cup, a T20 match, any international game. Only the second time they've beaten them. Australia have marched through the tournament in superb form. We're clearly favourites to win another title. But South Africa, just from the first ball, were just really right on top of their game. Australia batting first, and they got off to a slow start. They made 35 in the power play, which is their lowest power play total in the whole tournament. Brilliant bowling with the new ball by Ayabonga Kaka and Marizan Cup. And, they did have a bit of a spurt at the end of the innings, 40 of the last 4 overs. But generally, it was just a slow innings by Australia. The left-arm spinner, Nonkululeko Mlaba, also strangling them in the middle overs. So, a target of 135 was still a bit of a testing one for South Africa, especially with the nerves of chasing. And Australia being such a great side. But, wow, Laura Wolfart, who just oozes class whenever she bats. And Annika Bosch, a real breakthrough innings by her, breaking the back of that task. So just the way the Proteas oozed confidence. You're coming up against the world's #1 team, one of the great cricket teams, who've won this tournament so many times. And to play like that was just absolutely exceptional.
Now, Ken, how would you describe the overall style of play that the Proteas exhibited during the final? What strategies do you think would work best against the Aussies?
Well, I think when you're playing a team like Australia with that powerful batting lineup, you've got to be absolutely spot on with your disciplines. You've got to be extremely well controlled with the ball. And you've got to field very well. And South Africa certainly fielded excellently. Bosch took a fine catch. Marizan Cup, that brilliant run out. And, the bowlers just were so consistent and did their job superbly. And I think that kind of frustrated the Australians. Also, South Africa played 3 times on that pitch before, Australia just once. So maybe Australia just struggling to adapt a little bit to the vagaries of that surface in Dubai. But yeah, it was a strangulation, wasn't it? They just never allowed Australia to really break loose with the bat. And then such an assured performance for South Africa when they were batting, led by the captain, Laura Wolfert up front. And then Annika Bosch just playing with tremendous freedom, the fastest half century of the tournament so far, and a real match-winning innings by her.
Well, Ken Boland, I want to say thank you very much for joining us here this afternoon in Nigeria, and have a good rest of the day.
Thank you very much. You too.
And that's all this hour. But before we go, let's take another look at some of the major stories that we brought your way. Government promises to rebuild Majia town following Jigawa tanker blast as Nigeria Safety Investigations Bureau begins probe. And Defense Headquarters neutralizes 96 terrorists, recovers 712 million naira in crude. Kenya President Ruto nominates Interior Minister Kithure Kindiki as Gachagua's replacement. Now do remember you can watch News Central live on DSTV channel 422, Star Times channel 274, Avo TV, and of course on YouTube. Many thanks for watching. My name is Mazino Appeal.